Rule 4 was the first rule I broke, and I didn't mean to. If an unauthorized light appears on the ridgeline, steady and white, do not track it with optics. Report direction and elevation only. One night, around 22:15, we saw it. A steady white light on the ridgeline to the east. Not flickering, not moving. Not like a phone screen or a vehicle. It was just there, like a star that had dropped too low. Tower 2 called it in, and the talk acknowledged. Harlan told us not to look at it with optics. Klein made a joke about it being a drone. I did what I was told at first. I looked with my naked eyes. I noted the direction. Then, curiosity won. In a way that feels embarrassing to admit now. I raised my binoculars. I put the light in the center of the glass. For a second, it looked normal. A point of white. Then the binocular view changed. The light wasn't a point anymore. It had depth, like it was close, not far away. It looked like a small doorway standing upright on the ridge, shining outward. My stomach dropped. The doorway's shape sharpened, as if the optics had helped it focus. And inside that white frame, I saw movement. A silhouette. It was human-shaped, standing still. Then the silhouette leaned forward slightly, like it had noticed me. I pulled the binoculars away so fast they hit my face, and my eyes watered. Harlan saw my reaction immediately. He didn't ask what I saw. He said, "Did you track it?" I didn't want to answer. He stepped closer. "Did you track it?" he repeated. I swallowed. Yes. Harlan closed his eyes for half a second, like he was forcing himself not to react emotionally. Then he said, "Okay." He took my binoculars. He didn't look through them. He folded them and put them in a pouch. Then he said, "You're on light duty tonight. You stay near the lit areas. You don't go outside alone." I felt embarrassed, like I'd broken a superstition. Then Harlan said something that drained the embarrassment out of me. He said, "If it follows you, you tell me immediately." I asked, "What do you mean follows me?" Harlan's face stayed neutral. He said, "It likes people who notice it." The Outpost had roof footsteps often enough that people treated it like weather. If you asked about it, the veterans would shrug. Wind, they'd say, or cats, or settling metal. But nobody counted. Because the people who counted didn't do well afterward. I heard them almost every night. A slow sequence of steps above our chew. Sometimes light, sometimes heavy. Sometimes stopping directly over my bunk, like something paused to listen. One night Dyer whispered, "How many do you think it is?" Velez answered in the dark, "Don't." Dyer whispered, "I'm just curious." Velez said, "That's how it gets you." Dyer stayed quiet for maybe 30 seconds. Then he whispered, "I think it's like 20? Velez sat up fast enough that his mattress creaked. He said, "Stop." Dyer went silent. The footsteps above us paused. Then they started again. And they moved toward the chew door, like they were following the direction of Dyer's attention. I felt my throat tighten. The footsteps reached the edge of the roof. Then something tapped the chew door. Just once. A light tap, like a knuckle. Dyer's breathing became sharp and uneven. Velez leaned toward him. He said, quietly, "Don't answer, don't move." Another tap. Then a voice from outside, calm and familiar. "Dyer." Dyer's entire body stiffened. The voice said again, "Dyer, open up." I recognized the voice. It sounded like Sergeant Klein, but Klein wasn't on our churro at that hour. Velez didn't move, and his voice stayed low. "Rule 2, he whispered. The voice outside said, "Dyer, it's Klein. Open the door." Dyer's lips parted. I could see it in the dim light from the window. He was about to answer. I reached across and grabbed his wrist. He flinched like I'd shocked him. The voice outside sighed, an exaggerated sigh, like someone mimicking impatience. Then it said, "Fine." The footsteps returned to the roof, heavier now, and paced directly above Dyer's bunk. Then they stopped. I waited for another tap, but it didn't come. Instead, something scraped against the roof, like nails dragging slowly across metal. Velez whispered, "Don't count." Nobody did. Eventually, the scraping stopped. We didn't sleep the rest of the night. In the morning, Doc Hahn checked Dyer's pulse and blood pressure like he was looking for a reaction. Then he asked Dyer one question. "Did you say anything?" Dyer shook his head. Doc Hahn nodded once, like that was the only thing that mattered. By the third week, the outpost was doing something that made less sense than the footsteps and voices. It was integrating. It started showing up during daylight. Not obviously, not like a monster walking across the yard. It blended into routine. One morning, I went to the water point and saw a person standing there, back turned to me, wearing what looked like a loose work uniform. I almost walked closer, because the person looked like a local worker waiting their turn. Then I noticed a shadow. It wasn't there. The ground around the person was lit. Other objects cast shadows. The barrier cast a shadow. The tank cast a shadow. But the person did not. My stomach went cold. Rule 11. I turned away immediately and walked back toward the talk without running. I didn't look back. When I got to the talk, Amir looked at my face and knew something was wrong. He said, "Rule 11? I nodded. He didn't ask what I saw. He just asked, "Where?" I told him. He called Boone and 2 other MPs. They approached the water point with rifles low and flashlights ready. I watched from behind a barrier. When they reached the water point, the person was gone. Boone returned and looked irritated, like he hated how intangible it was. He said, "Nothing there." Amir nodded. He wrote it in the logbook. Then he said, "Good report." Later that Sunday, Samir found me near the laundry. He looked tense. He said, "You saw him?" I didn't answer right away. I said, "Who?" Samir glanced around us as if the outpost might hear him. He said, "Not worker. Looks like worker. Not." I felt my throat tighten. I asked, "What is it?" Samir's eyes were tired. All he said was, "Old thing, in rock, in dry place. It learns voices. It learns names." I asked, "Why is it here?" Samir shrugged in a small, helpless way. He said, "Because you came." Then he added quickly, "Not you, all you." I wanted to ask more, but he stepped away like he'd already risked too much. That night, Amir called a meeting with Harlan, Klein, Boone, and Doc Hahn. I wasn't supposed to be there. I only caught parts of it because I was on comms duty. But I heard Amir say, "It's getting bolder." And Boone said, "It's walking inside the wire now." And Doc Hahn replied, "People are sleeping less. That makes it easier." Harlan said, "We tighten discipline. No one breaks the rules." Amir replied, "It may not be enough." That was the first time I heard the senior NCO sound uncertain. Not afraid. Just uncertain. It happened on a night that started normal. We ran late checks. Towers rotated. The outpost settled. At 0055, Tower 1 reported a steady white light on the east ridgeline. Rule 4. Amir logged it. Harlan reminded the towers not to track it. At 0110, the south line motion sensor chirped once, then went quiet. Boone took a roving patrol toward the south interior fence line, staying inside the wire. At 0122, the radio net caught a burst of static. Then a voice. Not on a handset, not from someone keying a mic. It came over the talk speaker like an incoming transmission. It said,
"Open the gate."
Amir stiffened. He muted the speaker. Then the backup speaker crackled and the same voice came through.
"Open the south gate."
Lowe looked like he was about to throw up. He whispered, "It's in the system." Amir didn't answer. He switched to alternate frequency, and the voice followed. Like it already knew where we'd go. Doc Hahn, who was in the talk the night for a medical check on one of the tower guards, looked at Amir and said, "It's pushing." Amir's jaw tightened. He said, "Everyone, stay in lit areas. No solo movement. All towers, hold." Then the voice changed. It started using names. It said,
"Klein."
Klein was on the net. He responded before anyone could stop him. "What?" Amir's head snapped toward him. "Klein," Amir said sharply. "Stop talking." Klein went silent. The voice on the speaker laughed. It wasn't a human laugh. A sound like a laugh that didn't understand joy. Then it said,
"Boone."
Boone's voice came over the radio, tense. "I'm here." Amir looked like he wanted to slam his fist into the table. He said, "Boone, do not answer it." Boone replied, "I thought that was you." Amir's face went very still. That was when I understood what it was doing. It was using our communication habits against us. It was forcing call and response, because soldiers are trained to answer. At 0140, Tower 2 reported footsteps on the true roofs in the south row. At 0147, the south line lights blinked once. At 0152, a knock came on the talk door. Then the voice outside said my name. Ruiz. I didn't move. Amir didn't move. The voice said, "Ruiz, open up." Then it said, "It's Amir. Open up." Amir's eyes flicked to me, like he was checking whether I'd react to my boss's voice. I stayed still. The voice outside sighed, like it was disappointed. Then it said, "Fine." The outpost power flickered. Not a total outage, just enough for the lights to dim and recover. In that dimness, every shadow in the talk seemed to stretch. Then the south maintenance gate alarm chirped. The talk display had showed it clearly. The gate sensor had been tripped. Boone's voice came over the net, urgent. "Talk, someone's at the south gate." Amir stood, controlled. "Describe," he said. Boone's breathing was loud in the mic. "I can't. It looks like..." Amir said, "Do not look with optics." Boone didn't answer. Then Boone whispered, almost to himself, "It's Milo." Lowe made a small sound, like a whimper he tried to swallow. Amir grabbed the handset. "Boone, back away. Do not approach, and do not open." Boone's voice shook. "It's inside the wire." That sentence hit the talk like a physical object. Because if it was inside the wire, it meant one of two things. Either our security was compromised in a way we hadn't detected, or the rules weren't about locals outside anymore. Amir said, "Boone, move to light. Do not run." Boone's breathing changed, like he was moving. Then the net crackled and a second voice joined Boone's transmission, a voice identical to Boone's. It said, "I'm moving." Amir's eyes narrowed. He said, "Boone, authenticate." Boone responded immediately. 2-7. That was his personal challenge response, not something a random person would know. The second Boone voice repeated, 2-7. Amir's face went pale for the first time I'd ever seen. He said, very quietly, "Switch frequencies, now." Boone did, and the second voice followed. At 0207, the lights blinked again. At 0211, the Chu-Ro camera feed froze for 3 seconds, then resumed. When it resumed, there was a figure standing in the middle of the yard, between barriers, facing the talk. It was still, human-shaped, not moving, no shadow. Khan whispered, "Rule 11. Amir didn't answer. His hands moved quickly. He called the towers, ordered all eyes to stay inside the wire and not track the figure with optics. Then he did something that told me he believed this was no longer manageable by routine. He called higher. He requested immediate support and guidance. Not because he thought that they could fight it, because he needed someone outside the outpost to acknowledge what was happening, so it didn't get buried. The figure on the camera feed raised an arm, slowly, not waving, pointing at the talk. Then the camera feed cut out completely, and the screen went black. Lo whispered, "That's not possible." Amir said, "Nothing is impossible here." Then outside, footsteps started. Not on a roof, but on the ground. Walking toward the talk, slow and steady. Each step audible through the reinforced walls, like the sound was inside the building. Amir looked at all of us. He said, "Nobody opens anything." The footsteps reached the talk door, and they stopped. Then the voice came through the radio speaker again. Calm.
Open the gate.
No imitation, just a command. Boone's voice came over the net, tight. "It's at the gate and the talk door. Both." Amir whispered, almost to himself, "It's splitting attention." Khan said, "It wants someone to move." Dyer, who had been silent in the corner, suddenly stood up. His face looked blank, like he was sleepwalking. He said, "I can open it. It'll stop." Velez grabbed him by the shoulder hard enough to spin him. "Sit down," Velez snapped. Dyer blinked like he had just woken up. "What? What did I say?" Harlan stepped in and held Dyer's gaze. He said, "Did you count anything tonight?" Dyer's eyes darted. He whispered, "No." Harlan studied him. Then he said, "Good. Keep it that way." Outside, the footsteps moved away from the talk door. They headed toward the Chu-Ro, then toward the south maintenance gate, then back toward the talk again, like it was pacing, testing. At 0240, the outpost went quiet in a way that didn't feel like calm. No wind, no generator hiccups, just an absence of normal noise. Then the voice spoke through the speaker one last time. It said, "You're tired." Khan stiffened, because it wasn't a rule, it was an observation. Then the speaker clicked off by itself. The outpost power stabilized. The lights stopped blinking. The sensor alarm stopped. When dawn came, The south maintenance gate was still chained and locked, but the padlock was warm to the touch, like it had been held. Boone photographed it and sent it up. Amir logged everything. Then, at morning stand to, he did something I didn't expect. He gathered us and said, "This outpost has conditions. We don't understand them, but we will follow procedures. Nobody is alone at night. Nobody breaks the rules. If you hear your name, you do not answer. If you think you're being pulled toward a gate or a door, you report it immediately. That's not weakness. That's survival." Then he added, "And no one, under any circumstance, counts the footsteps." He didn't say why. He didn't have to. I left Outpost Aster. I finished the deployment. I came home, but I still wake up sometimes and check where my boots are. I still catch myself listening for a second set of breathing. I still refuse to whistle at night, even absent-mindedly. And every now and then, when a hallway is quiet enough, I think I hear my name spoken in a voice that sounds familiar without belonging to anyone. When that happens, I don't answer. Because if Outpost Aster taught me anything, it's this. Some places don't want you dead. They want you responsive. They want you trained. They want you to do what you always do. They want you to open the door.